Thank you for joining us today. I call the November 21 meeting of the Human Rights Commission to order. Let us begin with an introduction of commissioner members.
Xavier Welty, Human Rights Commission member.
Tom Bassar, Commission member.
Cody Severson, Commission member.
Kristen Nelson, Commission member.
Esty Saliv, commission member and chair.
Nancy Boyle, Vice Chair, Human Rights Commission.
Carolyn B. Craft, Commissioner.
Zoe Apsey, Commissioner.
Courtney Cronbach, Commissioner.
Thank you. The next item on our is to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Christian and a second from Zoe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the sign. Motion carried. The next item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 17. You can make a correction in that. October 17, 2024 minutes meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion was filed by our vice chair and seconded by Christian. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the sign. Motion carried. The fourth item on our agenda for the day
I'll switch.
is the complaint form and discussion, how to file complaints and to fill out a form. All commissioner members, in your pocket, you will find the web page for filing a complaint along with the form included. Also, there's an email from Courtney providing feedback on the improvements to the web page and the form. I will invite Commissioner to take a look and provide any additional comments you will have to Brenda and Michael.
Does this complaint form also work for employees that go across the river or North Dakota residents who work in Minnesota?
We'll let Michael answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Human Rights Commission. Good morning, and thank you for your time today to talk about this particular form. This form is really specific to the city of Fargo, and so this would be really if anyone in their interactions in the public in Fargo felt that they were the subject of a potential complaint of discrimination or the subject of discrimination. This is really intended to provide that opportunity for someone to file a form with us. We did provide some light edits to it already. Just appreciate the feedback that's been received to provide some even additional improvements to the form. Really, the purpose of the discussion today is to make sure that we are tailoring this form so that it's usable, it's accessible to members of the public should they ever wish to contact the city of Fargo in this way. This is all up on the city website today too. So after the meeting, if there are other constituents or people that you would like to have take a look at this, this is available to be viewed on the website. But it is specific to the state of North Dakota. It is specific to the city of Fargo.
Thank you, Michael. Any additional comments?
Yes, one of the concerns, or a couple concerns that I had with the complaint form was that of the terminology, and it brings up the title, ADA, and then for that of the person filling out the form or the reader, it could be confusing because you're clicking on the link for discrimination complaint, but then on the form it says non-discrimination. And so that title on the form itself could be confusing for readers. Another piece within the instructions for the complaint is that the complaint will not be looked into in so many words if all the procedures aren't followed. If we can have that form as simple as possible, the thing I would be concerned with is an individual going not only to the site, start filling this out, and they miss one minute area, and because of that, it's never seen. It's never moved forward. So I know when I even looked through it, it seemed confusing, and I work in that world of receiving complaint forms, so if it could be streamlined, simplified somehow, or possibly even a little video related to it around accessibility. This is how to complete the form. If you're struggling with completing the form, this is who you can contact, because we want to make it as accessible and efficient moving forward for individuals. So that was some of the concerns or suggestions I had.
If I could, Mr. Chair and members, that'd be fantastic if you had some specific text or language from other model organizations or templates that we could borrow from. We're more than happy to consider that and include that. We admittedly could make an improvement in that if there's some confusion about that term of non-discrimination. So absolutely, let's include that. Thank you.
I just want, is it possible to have this in multiple languages or able to be translated? Along with another thing I noticed is there's no place for pronouns, and I'm not sure, maybe that should be included on the application if we're updating it.
Yeah, and Nancy, I know that you mentioned like what happens after they fill out the form, and some best practices, it seems, from other large cities is to include like what happens next after you submit the form. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just a couple phrases that say like, we'll intake your form, we'll review it, we'll contact you, just so that they're not left hanging there, not knowing where to go next. So that could be something to consider as well.
And with that, were there any submissions from that form in the last 30 days?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I'm not aware of any that have been received in the last 30 days. I believe it's been some time since it's been utilized.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, another thing. I haven't had a chance to review any updates since I sent the email, but thank you for printing this out. I was wondering about the potential for it to be fillable. So just thinking, many people don't have printers anymore or access to one. So I did note that other cities do have fillable e-forms that could be submitted. And then on the flip side of that would be other cities also had where you could submit one in person. And I think that that could be helpful as well. I'm always thinking from the senior citizen perspective, and it could be pretty daunting to try to do an e-form or try to print and submit. And so that could be a potential option.
And then I think for whatever it's worth as well, down the line, it might be nice if anything comes from this in terms of like more citizens submitting things, it might be nice to partner with another agency like First Link or something like that to actually to follow up on things, since it's not something that either this commission or staff member is likely to do if it's something more intense than just an actual like city hall thing. And so if we're able to either partner or collaborate in some form with an agency like First Link that's already trained in that sort of a response, that might be nice in the future.
It would also be useful to know when complaints come in and what the nature of the complaint is. Categories tend to, if there's a consistent issue that comes up all the time, we need to know about it.
Great comments and questions and answer from Michael, City Administrator. To Cody's first question, I just wanted to ask a quick question when he asked about if you're aware of any complaints coming in the past 30 days, and you say you're not aware. That puts a question in my mind: who monitors when complaints come in? Because sometimes there are communication bottlenecks, and there could be complaints that come in and you are not aware. Whoever got a complaint did not report it up the chain. So who monitors that?
Yes, so in this case, the form directly points a potential complainant to our office phone number, the City Commission office phone number, which is 701-241-1310. And so that would be a potential form of intake, as well as the City Administration Office. And so that'd be a direct email. Right now, if you were to click on that, that's a hyperlink. If you were to click on that, that would open up a contact form. So you would be able to write directly and it would show up in my inbox. And so there's either by phone or by email would be the inputs that would come into our office.
Thank you, Michael.
And I just have another question, being a new commission member. What is the Human Rights Commission role in any assistance with discrimination or complaint forms?
So in this regard, appreciate the question. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. In this regard, the commission is both communicating that this process is available to members of the public, referring people perhaps to the form. But if there was an investigation to be conducted, depending on the nature of that investigation, perhaps it's a law enforcement investigation, maybe it's just a civil investigation, or an employment investigation if it involves a city employee, somebody that's within our employment and sphere. So the role of the commission could be really case specific and case dependent on the nature of the complaint. And so to that earlier question that was raised about could we be made aware of when the complaints are received, we can certainly do that in the future so that there's general awareness. And then perhaps what we could do is collaborate with you to determine when it might be appropriate, when it might be best to include members of this commission or subsets of the commission in any of those findings and some fact collections. So, but they really are case specific. And they also have the opportunity as an individual, certainly to bypass the city altogether. You could go to the state of North Dakota. You could go to the EEOC, for example, if you had an employment opportunity commission claim that you thought was ripe, that you wanted to go to the Minneapolis EEO office, you could do that as well.
Do we, I know we have a Facebook. Do we have a link to this complaint form on our Facebook?
I don't believe that is the case. The
Okay.
complaint form is really just in this particular section of the
Space.
website.
Who runs our Facebook?
The city of Fargo
Okay.
maintains, our communications and government affairs department maintains all of our social media profiles for all of our boards and commissions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I think that is a conversation to be had because, I mean, I'm not trying to say the HRC is trying to have an overreach, but if we are here for human rights, I think discrimination in employment or anything is also a violation of human rights. And I think it's something we have to discuss. I think the HRC should have a role in that. Thank you. Is there any other comments, question on this issue? Thank you, everyone. Let us proceed. The next on our agenda will be scheduling our strategic planning meeting session. We would like to schedule a strategic planning meeting for us since the holidays are around the corner. I know life gets faster and everybody's calendar gets clustered. So we are thinking if we can do this strategic planning meeting maybe December next month, or if you think it's necessary to defer it to maybe the new year, January, February. It's a discussion I want us to have on that. The reason is we're trying to, since the elimination of DEI in the cities, overseeing HRC now, we're trying to streamline some of the activities. Originally, we came here like 3 times. We have a working session, we have an executive session, and then we have the regular HRC meeting. And now we're trying to see if we can just merge some of those things, like the executive session and the working session. We had a conversation on that, and I'm proposing that, we can have just one session that will precede the regular HRC meeting. But if we would do that, then we have to include a virtual component. So, because I want every commissioner member to be part of any discussion. So I think the strategic planning meeting will be very good for what we do here going forward. So we want to know your mind on that.
Well, December is a very busy month. So I would think we should do it in January or February.
Yeah, if we could get it on calendars, I would say early to mid-January, so we know going into and already starting that of 2025 kind of goals, what we're looking at, getting everybody on the same page would be ideal, but I also don't know travel plans, all of that, and a virtual component could suffice for some of that too. But yeah, early January would be ideal possibly.
Any proposed time frame? I mean,
Yeah,
if we're
the
doing it
month of January would be okay. just in addition to what Nancy said, we got to finish up the year strong with some of these events we have coming up. So with the strategic meeting, I think a room ahead of time to plan better and see how we can move forward. That will be better in January. Yeah.
January 16 will be the regular HRC meeting. That's the third Thursday in January. If we have to do the strategic meeting, do we do it before or after the regular HRC meeting?
I would suggest before if we can, even if we have a shorter agenda in January, because we're still working on some of that, but then we're getting the ball rolling in essence. And within that, I know it's the next thing on the agenda, so not jumping ahead, but what date is MLK Day celebration downtown? Just being cognizant of that when we're looking at
Good point.
setting. January 20th, so that would be after our normal meeting. So if we could do something the week before the HRC normal meeting, people would be in agreement of that.
I don't know, looking at proposed date, because January, people just coming back from the Christmas, New Year hangover. So I don't know what proposed date we could be looking at, so we can get that, or do you want us to just let Brenda, figure out what date before the 16th we can have that?
Well, I have a question, and and it goes to Martin Luther King Day. I don't know if we have a role in it this year. We should, because it's our award.
We will get to that.
Yeah, I know it, but I'm talking about timing, because if we do, that takes up a whole lot of time for a lot of people in vetting the form, in getting the planning ready. So if we do, I would argue that you couldn't do it in the beginning of January if in fact we have a role in this because of the time commitment of a number of people that will be involved.
So,
Yes.
are you thinking more like into December if we're trying to have a role in the MLK event, or?
MLK is the next item on the agenda. I'm just raising the point that if in fact we have a role, as we have in the past, because it's our award, then if a little late in planning, but it takes a number of people that are involved in it a significant amount of time.
I mean, listening to all that I've heard right now, I think this is my own suggestion as a member of the HRC. I think December is cluster, and if we are having direct participation in the MLK Day, we will also be busy in December, and we'll be busy in January. And the HRC regular meeting in January is just around the 16th, so trying to cluster everything. I will propose that maybe we can host the strategic planning meeting in February, and we can make better announcement during the HRC regular meeting in January and give people adequate time to prepare for the strategic meeting. It's just my own idea.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure having a strategic meeting after the first session in 2025 would be ideal. Personally, what I would suggest, perhaps you can do like a pool and see the availability of all commission members, and see what works for everybody.
That sounds good. We are in support of that. Okay. Is that something we have to vote on?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so. It's something perhaps you can send an email or some sort of online pool or something that we can respond to with, suggested dates that you come up with.
Can we ask Michael to facilitate that, please?
Yes, we'd be happy to do a doodle poll, and we can send that to the full HRC and just try put out 3 or 4 dates. We won't. We'll try to keep it somewhat focused here. So, but I appreciate your conversation today, and we'll provide some good opportunities for you to respond.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Subcommittee discussion. The subcommittee will continue not to meet while we work on our strategic planning. The next item on our agenda will be the MLK Day update. In your pocket again, Commissioners, you will find proposal from Frederick on the MLK Day. Unfortunately, Fred could not be here, but sometimes we might be able to join us sometimes later. But we will work on that if he can present something, maybe in the January meeting. So Fred is not here to give us any update. If the city has any update on the MLK Day, that will be very appropriate for us here. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I would just add that we had a really nice discussion with Frederick to talk about goals and objectives for next year's event. He is very excited to help curate the content for that event. Again, we're just very appreciative of his professional services, his insight, his wisdom about how to do this and how to really attract as many participants as possible to the event. We really appreciate all of his effort and all of his time that he puts into this. So very productive discussion. We've included the flyer for the event. He's already advertising the flyer and is starting to work on the content for the 2025 Living the Dream event. So all of the details are there, and we'll make sure that we also, through our communications channels and through our media contacts, get the word out so that we get as much attention and coverage as possible for the event. It's a great opportunity to showcase Fargo, to showcase Frederick's great talents and abilities.
Fred also texted me today about scheduling the meetings upcoming, so I'm not sure if anyone else received a text, but if anyone's interested, we probably should have a couple other HRC members on the committee meetings. So if folks are interested, let me know. Okay.
And so one thing just to put out there as well, because I think this kind of morphs behind the scenes more for like the collaboration between the Human Rights Commission and Fred's Dissonance in the last few years. And I guess I feel like we've lacked a little bit of intentional conversation like in the forefront here. And so just acknowledging that curation of the event has it has adjusted from Human Rights Commission over to Fred's Dissonance. And so there's not a big of a need from our commissioners to volunteer time and energy and effort into it, as Fred is taking care, Fred is taking care of that now. And how it happened a few years ago when like our commission donated money to the cause, and now it's the city of Fargo that's really donating money to the cause. Although I appreciate that his language in here still, that it's a collaboration between Human Rights Commission and Fred's Dissonance, but just acknowledging that component that like we're not putting as much of our like time into it as much, but Fred's Dissonance has taken that on. We're appreciative of that, and just like moving forward through the years, like this is more than likely generally how it's going to work with Fred's Dissonance putting this together and us collaborating with him on that. So just that adjustment.
But my question is, of the award, of the awards that we give, is the Human Rights Commission still responsible for that?
I would assume no, but
It could be
I
something
mean,
that
it's
could be
our
asked.
award.
We could ask about it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask Fred if we could give out some awards at the event.
Wait a minute,
especially-
wait a minute, whoa. The award is a Human Rights Commission award. I mean, that's, I get all the logistics for all the rest of it, but we even have that 3 community awards recognizing individuals or organizations. Is he going to do that, or are we going to do that? That's my question.
I would think it's us.
I mean, it has been our responsibility before, and that's where I would go back to, it takes a whole lot of time and effort. I've done it for 2 years. I'm not doing it anymore, but I'm telling, and you need a fresh face, but it takes time. And if it's our Human Rights Commission award, then it seems to me that we should have input into it.
I mean, I just wanted to listen to what each of you had to say first. I mean, in the past, the MLK Day thing was a HRC thing, and we outsourced it to Fred. He was the contractor who curated the event, and that was what we had control over. So I'm a little taken aback. I'm surprised that Fred and the city have gone ahead, and the HRC has been given a back seat. So I think those questions will go back to the city. let them tell us.
I understand that, but I'm saying the window of time is really short.
I understand.
If you're going to go through all these recommendations, the call for recommendations takes time, then you have to go through them, you have to figure out, and we're talking a month and a half away.
Yep.
I mean, that, with all that's in between, so I'm just raising that, and who's responsible for it, how's it going to happen, when's the announcement going to go out, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. I mean, that's what I'm saying. In the time past, and Cody's here, he's the former chair, he knows more about that. We invited Fred to the HRC and we discussed with him on the nature of the program, funding and all of that. And we made a recommendation through the Department of DEI to the city, and the city did the funding, but now it's like it's the reverse. The city does everything and we just sit here and just make the announcements.
I got it, but who's going to do the awards? That's what the answer.
And I
Sounds like Zoe's already in contact with him, though,
Yeah, I just texted him asking.
right?
But is he
We-
going to
we-
tell
That
us how
sounds
it's
like
going to?
something that will be deferred to Zoe and
Oh, yes, and I can.
whatever
if-
group.
Yeah, if there are a couple who want, I think it was me, Carolyn, and Sekou who met last year to go through them.
Yeah.
But Ahmed was the one who got the application
Yeah,
ready for
but
us.
you're not getting the point I'm making here. The point I'm making here is, it's like Fred now is calling the shot. He can invite us if we want to partake and give information to Zoe, and Zoe tells us, hey, if you're interested, you can. No, we should give Fred instructions. We should give him his marching orders. It should be the other way around. It is our program.
Mr. Chair, first of all, with this issue of the MLK meeting, we've been having this discussion as to what role the HRC has to play. We don't have a defined role when it comes to hosting this event. We had the discussion last year, and we were all conflicted as to whether we going to give our awards or host a program or stuff like that. So I think in your office is important that we sort of like invite Fred and let's have a mutual understanding and give us a definitive role that we have to play in terms of making, because right now we just chatting. We don't even know what role we're playing. We just assume it.
If I may, can I ask Michael? I mean, this is a city, if in fact we are responsible, the city sends out the request for nominations in our stead, how is this supposed to work? Yeah, we have done this before, at least the selection of the individuals. Did you contract with him to select the individuals?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, and Commissioner, to your question specifically, no, he does not solely make the selections. You'll note on page 2 of his scope of service, it's contemplated that a committee would be a part of the process, and that would include representatives from the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition, the NDSU Black Student Association, the F5 Project, Fred's group, the Fargo Youth Works, which I believe what he referred to there could be our youth initiative, and then certainly the HRC as well. So if there was a member or two that you would like to appoint to be a part of that selection committee, I think that'd be an appropriate thing to do, to try solicit some names and think about how we do these awards. So it's just contemplated that he's a facilitator. He's really a co-host of the event. The city of Fargo hosts the event, and obviously with you, the Human Rights Commission, and he's a co-host of the event, and then also helps and dedicates some hours with community partners in planning the awards selection. But he is not the sole determinant of the actual awards to be given.
Well, if it's, I hate to, I'm beating a dead horse, I know. But if it is the HRC's award, if this is award on behalf of the HRC, and we are in a committee of 7 people and we have only one voice, how is that our award? I've been in these meetings before, so it's,
And to
they are chaotic when they run them. I'm just telling you.
But to that point, though, like looking at the language here, it is not just the Human Rights Commission award. It is a lot of organizations award.
Okay, so we've given up the ownership of the award, is what you're telling me.
That's what the verbiage tells me. Is that
Is that something we were consulted on? Question.
what?
I
It used to be. It no longer is.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too, in my review of the website, the link is still live to the nomination last year.
Okay.
And that there's a link to the DEI email address on there as well.
My concern is, I'm big on methodology. So what I'm looking at now is like, between the city, Fred Dissonance, and the HRC. The HRC was in the middle, coordinating between the city and Fred. But right now, what I'm looking at is like Fred is in the middle. So the cities coordinate with Fred, and then we get information back. And I don't think that's how it should be. We should be in the middle to coordinate the MLK Day thing through, and then, between the city and Fred. So right now, we've been given back seats, and that's what I'm looking at. So I think that to Thomas' question, the question should be back to the city. It's not, Fred cannot tell us where we belong. The city should tell us where we belong. It's not Fred's authority to tell us where we belong, what role we play in the MLK Day celebration. The city should tell us what our role is.
And if I may, John, what's your take on the, Mr. Strand, what's your take on the whole thing right now?
Well, thanks, Cody. I guess my take is this. It all kind of started changing with the pandemic. And when the pandemic unfolded, things were relegated out to outsourcing. My personal recommendation would be for the HRC to stay on this horse. It's a creation of the HRC. It's an extension of the city via the HRC. Yes, right now we're not in a pandemic, but we've had a transition from DEI to administration. We're in this flux state. But my hope would be going forward, and even when you have consultants breathing life into events, own it. It's an HRC event. It's an HRC sponsored event. It came from the HRC. It used to be the HRC. I would anticipate the future down the road. A year from now, we won't have just come out of internal transitions. But as far, I think, Caroline, you're right. In my head, these city awards, they're very important awards. Mm-hmm. And we shouldn't be surprised by them. We also need to know they reflect the values we want those awards to reflect. So I'd say keep your ownership of the awards, keep your connection and tethered to the event itself. And if you contract people out, the HRC and the city are one. You're not separate. The city is HRC. HRC is the city. But I think this is an HRC event. And right now we'll get through January, but don't give up the connection to the awards and why they're there and who's choosing them.
That's a fair assessment, John, and thank you for that. The problem here is the HRC is the city is the HRC, but we had no seat at the table when the city was discussing with Fred. They've already discussed, they already printed flyers. We just following from the back. So how are we part of this award? We should have a seat at the table. We should tell Fred how we want this thing to go. And the city's already taken all of that responsibility. So how do we take ownership?
Just give them a call.
So this is what I would suggest. The event is already in full swing. I think we should support it. I think we should go with the flow and have this discussion in our strategic meeting and see what we're going to come up with in terms of like making recommendations to the city as to how we should function as part of, the DEI elimination and incorporating such an important event into some of the activities that we want to share. So that's why I would suggest support the event, have the discussion in the strategic meeting and come up with a plan. Yeah.
That's fair. And like I said before, I don't have to do this job. I don't have to. Mm-hmm. I do it because I love the city. Mm-hmm. I do it because I love the leadership of the city. I don't know, maybe that's my weakness. I just believe everything should be done properly and in order. We've already been overstepped in the MLK Day celebration. We've already been overstepped. We have no voice in it. So we're supposed to be the leader, but we are leading from the back, and it's unacceptable. So if Department of DEI was canceled, I think it's the city's responsibility to call the HRC to the table. Hey, the MLK Day is coming up. What do we do? How did you guys do it in the past? What do we do? But the city already outsourced to Fred, discussed with Fred, concluded with Fred, and Fred is the one giving us information. It's unfortunate.
Yeah,
If
this,
we give up the award, the ownership of the award this year, we've lost it. That's how our organizations run. That's how bureaucracies run. I've got a lot of bureaucratic experience.
We feel very overstepped. So I think I see Mayor Mahoney coming to the mic. I think he might have one or two to share. Thank you, Mayor.
know if the mics work.
We got the name.
Carolyn, I'm glad to see that HRC wants to get back into this, because the whole idea was Martin Luther King, you know people in the community, you know who should be honored, you should know who's doing the work, and for a while it got away from that. There was popularity, or it was somebody you knew in the community and you gave it to it. Two elements I'd love you to do is have a subcommittee that helps do this and go through it. But Fred needs direction. He needs to know what he needs to do. So part of Martin Luther King used to be education. We used to do something on Martin Luther King. Part of it used to be, let's have the kids do their talent, which is wonderful to do that. But I think you as a commission have to decide, what do we want to have that day happen? What do we want to make the community aware? Do we want to make different things? When I saw some of the events, DEI office was involved, but I didn't see many commission members. Commission members should be involved. This is what we'd like to do. Here's how we'd like to do it. And to Carolyn's point, usually this started 3 months ago. You'd start looking for candidates, you start looking for people. So it's really on you that you have to do it in compressed time. But it's the 3 awards you usually give. You give 4 or 5 awards, you could give 2 awards, you could do whatever you want. But you as a commission should decide, what do we want to have people in the community aspire to, or the things that we think that really uplift our community. And I think Fred does a great production and act like that, but I would rather have, don't just give it to Fred and say, go do something. You sit in that room and help him decide what to do. And my criticism of the things before, as I said, I want the HRC involved. I don't want them on the outside. And I don't know how many of you went to the Martin Luther King event last year. All of you? You know, it should be your event. It should be, that's what happened. And when the awards are given off, oftentimes Commissioner Strand would give the award and John would say something because it's his commission. So it's just to be more yours. You should own it. And no, I don't want to own it. You guys own it. So.
And we appreciate
Thank
the
you,
fact
Mayor.
that you were there, and that's important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think it's easy, easy enough just to go into that first subcommittee meeting with that intention setting, that it is our award, our event, and just kind of reset the expectation.
There needs to be, a request for nominations, which has to come out from the city, and a deadline. And then, so if we keep the categories we've had before, then the press release is written, except for just change the date. But there needs to be a time frame for that.
And if I read recently, I believe the deadline, at least last year, was the 13th of December. I'm not sure if that's the same this year. So something that we might want to look into ASAP on that one, if we would extend that.
So it sounds like we need a subcommittee, correct?
I would say subcommittee, and then also since Zoe's in communication with Fred, I had let her know too that I could be on planning committees. So I guess the question would be, do we do a HRC subcommittee specific to MLK, or do we have a couple of the HRC members on the planning committee and comfortable with putting in our 25 to 50 cents as far as taking ownership over the awards, et cetera?
And that's kind of how it worked last year. We were on the main meetings, and then we did the award stuff on the side.
We did the award stuff on the side. It is my feeling that the HRC should run the meeting. The meeting was run before by Fred's Disness, and it was chaotic. Sedku and I were on the first one. And if it's our award, then we should run it. And we should have the criteria. And
Any other? Okay, yep. So we've already agreed that subcommittees will be discontinued until after the strategic planning meeting. So I will advise anybody who wants to play a role in the MLK Day celebration, relate with Zoe, and you can be. I mean, ever since I've been on the HRC, every year I've worked on the MLK Day selection committee, and I've been very much involved with the planning and all of that with other commissioner members here. So in the absence of a functioning subcommittee right now, I think anybody who wants to volunteer your service to the MLK Day celebration, please relate with Zoe.
Is that something you're willing to take on though? Like, are you being voluntold that right now or?
No, that's okay.
Okay, cool. Just
Thank
we
you,
should
Zoe.
Probably good affirmation from you that that's okay.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Allison, how would protocol work in that way? I believe things still need to be noticed then if we are going to have a subcommittee doing that.
That's correct. So even if you didn't say, you know, we're creating this MLK subcommittee, by saying,
Alyssa, I'm
you know,
sorry.
Zoe, yeah, it's Alyssa. It's okay. I've been out for a couple months. If you say, you know, just contact Zoe if you're interested, that essentially is creating a subcommittee. So unless you want to designate one person to kind of represent the HRC, you could certainly do that. Otherwise, if it's more, you know, two or more, you would need to notice that.
So the question will be if the meeting is not ours, it's Fred's meeting, and they inviting members from the HRC to attend, we need to reference that too. I mean, it's like I belong to the Chambers, Fargo, you know, Chamber of Commerce, and I know there are other HRC members there too. So if we are attending the Chamber of Commerce meetings, I mean, individually, but we members from the HRC do, how does that affect?
Again, you'd be looking at, is there a quorum of members? You know, let's just kind of put to the side a subcommittee, you know, kind of erase that from your brain and think, do we have a quorum of all 11 members present? And then are you discussing public business, which again is this huge, vast definition from the state. So really it can be anything. If you're, you know, just happen to be at a different meeting and somebody else is there from the HRC, you're not talking about the HRC, that's just fine. But again, you know, if there's a quorum, it should be noticed. If you anticipate that there might be a discussion, it's better just to notice it than to take a risk with a potential violation.
That sounds easy enough if we just notice it out right before any meeting that takes place.
Right.
If we're discussing personnel, because applications will be people involved, are there, that's not like talking about legislation or something.
No, and I know what you're saying. And I know there is a bit of a nuance. I don't know if Commissioner Strand or Michael could help, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I do know when there comes to be like a hiring committee for the city, rules are just a little bit different from the Attorney General's office. But again, I would need to look or.
Here's my thinking. Create a subcommittee for the moment present to get through the Martin Luther King event. There's nothing wrong with telling the public that you're having a committee and they're your meeting. And you need to organize right now proactively going into that, especially for the wards. And if you have a quorum, fine, notice it. The media will work with you. They're not going to go and tell the public all these, they're cooperative. But my sense is you need right now somebody at the helm internally from the HRC to then bridge to the Fred Dissonance and the planning committee of this event, and nothing wrong with it, just go do it. You know you need it.
I agree. I think that's how it should be done.
Do we create that subcommittee now?
We can email Zoe or text Zoe about it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. I
Okay,
wanna-
so then it has to be noticed. You know, I mean, the notice needs to go out
I think
and
I
so we
think
can
we
get
would-
recommendations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm back into my bureaucratic mode.
that would just go to either Brenda or Michael then, and then they can notice that.
Yes. We would handle that for the commissioners that would be participating. There would be really no confidentiality or privilege attached to the names that would be submitted. If we would receive an open records request, those would be public names. But I agree with Commissioner Strand. This would be something that we would certainly operate professionally with it, but it likely would not generate that kind of an interest, but it would be public. There would be no executive session privilege or any other kind of confidentiality privilege afforded to the commission to conduct those secretly.
Thank you, everyone. Let's proceed. Legislative update. Do any staff want to provide an update?
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I believe we covered quite a bit of ground there with the upcoming MLK Day event. That was really our topic that we wanted to highlight today. And just that if there are other feedback points that people have for the website, we are happy to include that. So I just reiterate the comment I made earlier in the meeting about best practices from other organizations on complaint forms. We're more than happy to work with our attorney's office and get that uploaded to our form. And then I also took note of the comment about a fillable form as well. So thank you for that. Really appreciate your dialogue today and discussion points.
Talking about a website, I noticed something because I tried to research some things before the meeting today when I got the minutes, and then I said, you know what, let me go back over some things. And the script has showed the minutes for the September 19th meeting. I was like, no, I think we had another meeting after September. That was October. So I had to go back to the website and check all the past videos. And I noticed that there are two videos. There's one video on the website that is labeled the same, and that is the September 19th HRC meeting. It's posted twice, but it's dated differently. So the same video is dated September 19th and is also dated October 17th. So I try to watch this. So the October 17th meeting video is not on the website.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so it's a redundant video of, so the same meeting, not a different meeting, but it's labeled as if they were two different meetings? Just want to make sure I understand that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
So the September 19 HRC meeting is labeled twice as September 19 and as October 17, but it's the same video. So we're missing the October 17
okay,
meeting.
so the October 17 video is what needs to replace?
It's
Okay.
missing, yep.
Understand, thank you. We'll look after that and see if we can find that video. Thank you.
Then, if I may, I noticed on the minutes that at the last meeting that we had, we had Eric Ness in the public comments talking about the police department wanting to use the Flock software, and I just wanted to just bring that up again and ask if we have a place in that conversation, what the appropriate course of action for us to take if we are curious about that, just what it actually looks like. 'Cause I don't know.
Could we have a briefing from the police department on what the software is or what the program is?
I think they're already using it.
Okay.
But just so we know what it is.
So if I understand the question, and I apologize, Cody, you were breaking up a little bit. I
sorry.
wasn't able to hear all of that. So the question was, you want to inquire about the procedures, about how Flock is utilized? If I could get that question first. Am I writing that down?
Well, and because there was just the public's concern about how Flock is being utilized. And I guess we don't know anything about it. We just know that a community member came up to talk about it. And so I don't know how we go about with our questions on Flock, like whether it's appropriate, whether like just having a conversation on it. I don't know how to go about that as the commission.
So I think there's a couple of things that we could do. Number one, the Police Advisory and Oversight Board did receive a comprehensive presentation on Flock. We could make that video available. And if the questions weren't answered within that presentation or in the later city commission briefings, if there are specific questions that I could take back to the police department, I'd be happy to get a written response for this commission. And then if those questions were addressed, great. But if you would like a presentation, I'm sure we could accommodate that in the future as well. I just know that a couple of our other boards that have purview on Flock have been briefed, and there's quite a bit of extensive videos that have been created on that. So I can find that information and send that to you from Police Advisory. I know that they took quite a bit of time on that question of policy and implementation. But if there's specific questions, happy to take them back. So let's do that, and please send them to me. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, just going off of what was just said, yeah, if we could make sure the HRC is one of those moving forward, that is briefed on those things too. Because I believe it was just recently West Fargo, and I don't know if it's the same program with Flock, but was talking about license plate readers, a couple other things that some community members have concerns with. So the more we're educated, then we might know what questions to ask and what answers to give.
I also wanted to bring up something else as well. I did have a chance to do a comprehensive look at the budget. I don't have specific numbers off the top of my head, but I was wondering if that could be a continued dialogue with the HRC as well regarding the budget for all the departments. DEI was canceled under the premise that there was not enough funding for it. Yet, just looking through all the budgets of the departments, there are some substantial raises for everybody, except for mainly like the water treatment facility and a couple other departments. But almost everybody got a substantial raise, some even more than 4.5%. So if that could be kind of like reiterated and brought up to us as well, that'd be awesome. Excuse me.
Any other? Thank you. So Brenda had included in the legislative update the agenda setting meeting, and we had a conversation on that. And like we said, because we're trying to reduce the number of time we have to come here for meetings, so we will also handle that during the strategic planning meeting, because we want to merge the agenda setting meeting and the working session so that we combine them, because I don't want any HRC members to be left out of any discussion. So that is going to be in the future. We can discuss that on during the strategic planning meeting. Any other legislature update? If not, okay, we can go into announcements. Before announcements, I had talked to somebody to invite, but the past 3 weeks was very hectic for me. I was not even current on my email, so I missed all the messages she sent me. And she's here today, Crystal, and she was supposed to make a presentation, and I did not include that in the agenda, so I did not reach out to her, but she's here. I don't know if we will have any public comments. If we won't have that, we can give her a minute or two to be able to do anything. Are you prepared to do that? Did you submit anything to the media room for the screen? Okay, thank you. All right, announcements.
Do you have one?
Does any member of the HRC have any announcements?
Yep, I have one. So I just want to recognize, yesterday was Transgender Day of Remembrance. Activist Faith Seidler had a wonderful video on her page called Transgender Night of Hope. Several activists are listed on there to talk about what hope looks like for going forward for our trans community in the city or in the state. There was several events held yesterday to remember our trans friends that have lost their lives this past year. So,
Thank you.
Any other announcements?
I guess I have an update. So the Fargo Park District is doing a master park plan, and there is a community engagement tool on their website, and they're wanting to hear from the whole community about what they want to see in their parks. So related to facilities, if your neighborhood doesn't have a park, or maybe your neighborhood doesn't need a park, it needs pickleball courts. So we really want to make sure that it includes all the voices of our community to make sure that our parks and green spaces represent our community. So sharing it here so folks hear it and everyone can go back to their communities and share to go and do the social pinpoint.
Is there any meeting that the Fargo City Park District conducts that are open to the public?
Around the master plan or just in general?
Just in general.
We have our board meetings that are the second Tuesday of each month at 5:30 at the sports complex. So please come with public comment.
Thank you. I didn't know that. Any other announcement? Does any staff of the city have announcements? That takes us to our next item on the agenda. We have pressed on time, but it's public comment. The next item is public comment. Those who wishing to address the HRC must use the sign-up sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 2.5 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity, personal attacks. Staff, do we have anyone sign up for public comments today?
I will double check, but I don't believe we have any signed up. I will double check.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Is there anyone who's here you did not sign up but you want to have a public comment or two? Crystal?
So, Mr. Chair, we just had the one individual that was referenced earlier with the possible presentation at a later time, just with the slides that need to make it to the future meeting. Is that accurate, that we would schedule that? Okay.
Okay.
So that's the only matter that came before the commission today. So we would be happy to facilitate that at your next meeting and get that scheduled up. So.
Thank you for being here, Crystal. We'll make sure we have you included on the next agenda for the January 16th HRC meeting for your presentation. In the absence of any public comments, is there any other business? If there's no other business, this meeting of the Human Rights Commission stands adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for December 19th, 2024. I know